My name is Joey Sapp, and I've produced over the course of the past 7-8 months a number of videos that I call Arizona War Zone, where I analyze the topics that are seemingly black and white, but not always so. In my first video, I talked about how it was drug money that seemed to fuel a lot of the problems. Second video, I introduced you to Jose. I told you about his buddy Pedro, and how once they realized what America had to offer, they were coming, and so would you. The last video details and really kind of glosses over the policy problems that we're having as a result of the federal government's inability to control the borders. This is my 5th video in the series, but only 4th in the proper commentary. I'm making this video today at the request of some of my friends from the East Coast that I went to college, law school, high school with. I'm just going to let y'all know a little bit. But things are not as black and white as they in the state of Arizona right now. It's anything but black and white. It's a lot of gray. And there's a lot of gray because there's a lot of hunger and unemployment on the Mexican side. There's a lot of jobs and potential on the American side. There's also a lot of drugs on the Mexican side. And drugs in Mexico, like drugs in America, bring in a lot of money, both for law enforcement and for the dealers, for the retailers, wholesalers, and everything else. Now, I hope you pardon the amateurishness of this video, because it is made right here in Arizona. In my yard, so to speak. Because today you don't have to be flashy to get your message across. As a matter of fact, getting messages across is something that the Minutemen did. They helped patrol the border. And from a real politics standpoint, if I was sheriff, Pima County, I wouldn't want the Minutemen on the border. They're non-certified civilians carrying guns. They can't do nothing about them. What's worse is they're doing a good job. Then, of course, you've got the federal government, Minutemen organization, really showing the feds what they cannot do, which is control that porous border. Now, issues of why we want to control it are different than the issues of the actual control itself. In comes the cartels. Now, there's a trial going on in Pima County right now that involves Minutemen, where it's alleged that the drug cartels had snitch, went in and killed everyone, including the baby. Including the baby. Infuriating crime that definitely got the message across. But what are you going to do if you're the political powers that be in these counties? You have an uneasy detente. You're there every day. Try to let them know, don't cross our border, cross your border, snipe along the way. It's detente. Along comes some civilians and stirs it up. These guys have got guns and drugs. Both sides. It's very important for you to remember, both sides have guns and drugs. So that means money. Now, the Minutemen need to be taken care of. Somebody's got to pay the price for this really horrendous murder. And everybody needs to save a little face and have some peace. Would not be difficult at all to arrange to accuse, say, the head of the Minutemen. In this case, it's a young lady named Shauna Ford. A murder, or at least accessory to murder. And some of the other Minutemen lieutenants, and allegedly a plant that was in there. I mean, they wanted the Minutemen for a while. Deep cover plants, stuff like that. You can read all about that. But what you've got is, this trial's going on right now. Shauna Ford's battling for her life. for a murder that could have reasonably been committed, more likely than not, by drug cartels getting rid of the snitch. And believe me, nobody likes a snitch. Not even the police like snitches. When I did civil rights work, it was one of the hardest things to do was to sue a police officer and expect a fellow police officer to testify against him. Because you're a traitor. Nobody likes a traitor. So that's why no real tears were cried beyond the family for the alleged snitch. Truth be known. But they got the Minutemen. I mentioned this before. They've got the Minutemen. They took the leadership out. The federal government got an eyesore out of the way. The counties, southern Arizona, peace somewhat again. Cartels, business as usual. And they got the message across. Then you have the nut in Tucson. And this person is a prime example of why psychological testing needs to be carried on at some stage in the higher education process as a matter of course. And while we are people that value our freedom, it must be remembered that, for instance, sex offenders can be administratively held beyond the terms of their sentence in most states now. In other words, if you serve a criminal sex offender sentence for being a sexual predator, you can serve your 20 years, and if they think you're a predator, they're still not going to let you out, and they don't have to. We probably need to arrange something like that for the nuts around us today, the irresponsible ones that get a hold of guns. But again, that's neither here nor there. What you have is the Pinal County Sheriff basically telling it's Pima, and then of course you have Yuma, Cochise. These guys are asking the feds for troops, and they're getting them. Sheriff expects a shooting war. Sheriff of Pinal County expects a shooting war with the cartels. The cartels have already shot at National Guard helicopters with rocket launchers. We're on a flashpoint in history here in the state of Arizona. And it's not black and white. There's so much gray. But you know, old-timey days, way back when the West was being won, before you had motorhomes and tract housing, this was a pretty violent place. The definition of the Wild West. Toby Keith's got a new song, Bullets in the Gun. Talks about a southern Arizona town where people still use guns. Where does everybody run? Mexico. The epitome of the Wild West gunfight. The mentality is here is we will shoot the fuck out of you and kill you dead if you trample over our rights. The last state in the continental United States to be admitted to the Union was Arizona. It was still a territory up almost until World War I. And that's rather interesting because World War I was started because a crazy student shot a politician in a very heated cauldron of a bunch of sovereign states. And they just went ape shit. They started World War I, which led to subsequently Germany's complete demoralization, being treated wrong, Hitler coming to power, and even being voted Time Magazine's Man of the Year, I think, in '36. Things haven't changed that much since the Wild West days and since the past. It's going to end up at the point of a gun, and it's been a long time since America, the United States, has had a continental war. Matter of fact, I think the last great one was the Civil War from 1860 to 1864, 65. The Spanish-American War really doesn't count. I think that we, back in the day, sort of planted that one. But it's coming. Now, what could make it stop? What would be the right answer, but would probably be the most negatively one to be received? Well, the voters in Arizona had to do it like 3 times. Medical marijuana. People don't want to hear it, but if you legalize stuff like pot, you take the guns and the money out of it. You regulate it. Now, if you import your pot, you may have to make some deals with some unsavory characters that were made unsavory because of your previous faulty drug enforcement mechanisms. I'm not saying legalize meth or cocaine or heroin or anything like that, but a good deal of people smoke pot. I remember I had an old law partner who said anything that makes you hungry and happy cannot be all that bad. Well, and if you look at an old reproduction of a Sears catalog from the 1800s, the pharmacy section, you'll notice they're always missing 2 facing pages, but they cover it really well. You have to look at the page numbering. That was when cocaine and heroin and all was legal, and after the Civil War, they developed hypodermic needles, and a lot of drug addicts, and you could order it from Sears Roebuck. Prohibition failed with alcohol. You had an incredibly large enforcement mechanism in place. You got to do something with these people. So there you have it. Off to the races. The hysteria of being too good has caught up with our country. Hyper-Christians pursuing an ultra-fundamentalist course have left very little wiggle room for adjustments. It's a very negative thing to say, yeah, let's make pot legal. It just doesn't sound right. Just like the other day when I had a talk with 5 Arizona State Troopers on the side of the road on my 50cc motor scooter. And as I explained to them, because at the time an unpaid ticket had suspended my license in Georgia, you don't have to you cannot charge someone with a suspended license ticket for a vehicle that doesn't require a license at all. It seems so counterintuitive. But the gentlemen were very courteous and very professional, as I've noticed Arizona law enforcement out here tends to be. And after our quibble, we pulled out the statute books and called in some supervisors. But I served as a general deterrent for about an hour and a half on the side of the road to a whole bunch of other people that might have been thinking about speeding. Negative behavior, negative consequences. It would seem so. But one thing about the law is it tends to be counterintuitive